Um, well, today we're in Paul Garden, next to one of the college's much loved fruit trees. And this is a Quince, Sidonia oblonga. And unfortunately we've missed its flowering by several weeks, but it has lovely white flowers which are flushed pink, single, and they've all been pollinated and they're already developing their fruits, which are just in the embryo stage at the moment. And I know it's not fruiting quite as heavily this year by the looks of it as it did last year, but we had an extremely cold spring this year when it was flowering. So in many ways we're lucky to have got a pollination and a fruit set at all, really. And the college uses the quince. We harvest them, collect them, and they're made into jelly and quince cheese. And this is a typical use of quince. It's a very handsome tree. This tree is mature, so it's about as big as it's going to get. It's easy to look after, you don't have to do lots of pruning. It has a rather elegant shape, and it kind of maintains that elegant shape. Nearly all quince are grafted plants, and they're named varieties. The French did a lot of work in the 19th century developing varieties, and there are about 27 different varieties available in the trade in Britain today, and they have varying attributes. Some have larger fruit than others, and some have more cookability than others, and there's difference in flavours too. So you pay your money and you take your choice in many ways, but of course unless you can sample all of these things, it's difficult to know what you're buying at the time. But they are a beautiful tree and they will fit into an average garden. And they originate from Eastern Asia, so Turkey, Afghanistan, Rajasthan, and Romania. So that part of the world, they need a cold period to fruit, but they, unlike apples and pears, they can be grown in the Middle East, but they do need a night temperature of below 7 degrees at various stages in the fruit's development. So that's quite interesting. It gives people in that part of the world, in the Middle East, the opportunity to grow this type of fruit, which is related to the apple and pear. And they're all in the rose family, in the family Rosaceae, and they're in a group called pomes, which is, you often hear about pomiferous fruits, and they're, if you cut them in half, they look just like a pear in many ways, and by the time we get to September, the fruit will be ripening, so it will be a beautiful soft yellow colour, and usually they're harvestable in October. And if you don't particularly like them as a fruit, they're lovely just to have 2 or 3 carefully picked ones in a bowl in your house, and they scent the room right up until Christmas often. So they're really lovely things to have at that time of year when there's less to look at and scents are not so strong from things like garden flowers. So there's lots of interest to be had as an ornamental tree, apart from it being a fruiting tree. There are about 750,000 tonnes of fruit harvested worldwide. The biggest quantity of fruit is harvested in Turkey, interestingly. And the fruits can be eaten raw, but they're not particularly pleasant in lots of varieties. They're much better when they're cooked. If you're going to eat them raw, they need to be bletted. Bletted means allowed almost to go rotten, and the fruit softens off and goes brown when it turns sweet, and it's not unpalatable, but it's not particularly nice to look at, in my opinion. Otherwise you need to cook them. Interestingly, the seeds of all pommiferous plants, quince, pears and apples, are poisonous. So the pips inside the apple, if you eat enough of them, they turn into cyanide in your system. It's all right to eat half a dozen, but don't store them up, have them all in one go. So I think that's it.